Hello, everyone. Welcome to Approaching the Pros. This is a college football-based production focused on football players from before they ever take a college snap, all the way through their journeys in college up until one day they hope to approach the pros themselves. I'm your host, Andrew Woodruff. You can find me on Twitter by searching @_Davy Scouts. You can also even find the show there by searching @Approaching Pros, just without the word "the" in it. Welcome back as we are looking to finish up my final high school model. So I've already taken a moment to share my high school running back model, my high school receiver model, and even my high school tight end model. You can easily find those on YouTube or podcast just by searching for Approaching the Pros. Today, I'm going to finish it up by going with those high school quarterbacks. And so the first thing we always have to jump into for this is my theory, the stud theory. So I truly believe that our NFL studs, if we go back in time, they were also looking like the best producers in college. And so my rationale was, okay, well, if that's the case, shouldn't they probably also be the best high school producers if you compare it to their peers? And so that's where I came up with this theory, and I've applied it to all four of the positions, and the results have been kind of promising. And so that leads over to the scoring process. So for quarterbacks, I kind of weighted it out in three different ways. The recruiting services I took at 25%. Remember, the composite services, so it's not targeting any one recruiting service or platform. I just kind of use that overall average of all of them. And the reason I only go with 25% for this particular position is because we see a lot of dudes that aren't the top stars of each class end up being the ones that make it to the pros. And so I take that, that's again a quarter of their score. The stud theory, again, just applies to those stats, that production that we're supposed to see. That ends up being about 35% for the quarterbacks. And honestly, I could have drawn an arrow that connects high school stats and fantasy because those two really go together hand in hand, right? Fantasy football is really just a representation of how the players look when it comes to actual football. And so for quarterbacks, I take 40% based off how those fantasy points look on a per game basis, based off, again, how their high school stats looked on a per game basis. And those two kind of merge together. Now, you'll notice also at the bottom of fantasy, right there, if you're looking at this in the video, it also doesn't include something called recruit types. So I've had a recruit type for every position. For running backs, is really focused on the size. So were they a feature size running back? Were they a role player size? Or really were they more the smaller running back that I call it satellite backs? Receivers, it was all based off their production. Tight ends was all based off what do they do once they had the ball in their hands, right? How did that look? And that broke it down. For quarterbacks, again, with this being a fantasy focus, we have to look at the rushing aspect, right? We know quarterbacks that can run are just gold mines when it comes to the fantasy game. And so we break it down to four different tiers when it comes to the high school recruit types. Again, remember, this is the recruit types. So as you'll see a little bit later, some of these players, you can look at them, they go in certain tiers, and you're like, probably wouldn't agree that they go there now. But back then, their high school stats, that's where they end up falling. So it's really nice just to see whether or not they already had that ability in high school, or was it maybe something they developed later, or a special maybe, I don't know, circumstances where they were able to succeed a little bit better later on. And so that leads us to four tiers. Of course, Konami Code quarterbacks, it's been a thing for quite some time. The dudes are just super athletic with the ball in their hands, picks up a lot of rushing yards per game. They're just, again, bringing in those extra points we like to see for the position. You got your mobile quarterbacks, just kind of a small tier behind that. Still very serviceable, can still pick up a couple points per game when it comes to rushing. You got your pocket passers who, again, they might can buy some time in the pocket, but they're not really going to just be your every down possible threat with the ball in their hands. Just take off and run. And then, of course, that last tier that we really just don't want is what we call our statue quarterbacks, right? They're just pretty much zeros, possibly even negatives in the running game on a per game basis. And so it just, again, it's a very, very interesting tier. And again, I say all this, why don't we just go ahead and look at it? So for my first tier, I'm going ahead and just pull up what I call the Konami Code tier. You've got guys like Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, right? Justin Fields, Brock Purdy actually found himself in this tier, which was very interesting going back and thinking on that. Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson, right? And again, there's a lot of people here I could also throw in here, like Avery Johnson, KJ Jefferson, Aiden Childs. You got DJ Lagway now about to go into the college landscape and looks like that. Isaiah Marshall, the Kansas backup as well. Again, these guys all kind of fall into that tier where they did a lot with the ball in their hands in the rushing game, on top of what they already do as quarterbacks. For the mobile group, we had guys like Tua, Joe Burrow, Jackson Dart, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Connor Weigman, Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams was in this tier, as well as Haynes King and some others. Again, nothing wrong with this tier. Being mobile, as we can see, has paid off very well already if we compare it. But again, we got to look at that and then look at people like Tanner McKee, who went to Stanford. And again, at the point where he probably was in high school, yeah, he was able to put up enough rushing performance to be considered mobile. When we watched what happened in Stanford, we realized once you put better athletes on the other side of him, he loses that ability. And I mean, I joked with a lot of my friends. Yeah, this dude's basically a statue just standing back there ready to get a sack and take negative yardage and pretty much be a negative in the rushing department by the end of the season. So again, we can see these things change. For the pocket passers, you've got guys like Bryce Young, DJU, JT Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, right? Drake May. Notice again, there's nothing wrong with this group. You got Shador Sanders, Spencer Rattler, Matt Corral, Drew Lar, Quinn Ewers. Let's see, who else can we bring up? Drew Lock, Josh Rosen, CJ Stroud, right? And again, several others. If you want to take them on and look at the picture, like you'll see, okay, yeah, these guys were really more pocket passers for the most part. Again, we can still point at Drake May when things kind of broke down in North Carolina. We found out this guy can be a threat with the ball and probably would have bumped up to the mobile tier if we'd had those kind of stats compared to what he did in high school. The last tier, again, it's a lot less inspiring, but we have our statues. And so I'll just go ahead and just try and name off a few of them. Got like guys like Jake Browning, Kyle McCord, Jacob Eason, Garrett Nussmeier, JJ McCarthy actually is one of the best ones that's ended up happening out of this whole tier. Dwayne Haskins, Keaton Slovis, Carson Beck's in this tier, Rocco Beck. I mean, there's just, if we think back to just again, what names did I call off for each of these tiers? We see it gets a lot less inspiring if you're stuck in this last tier. Again, JJ McCarthy, we saw him college scene. He was actually pretty good and mobile with the ball in his hands, but maybe that was a scheme issue back in high school where they didn't ask him to do that, and so that became a question of could he do that? Well, he's kind of answered that question, and then the only follow-up then you had to have is that truly who he is, or did he just benefit from what Michigan was able to put up front? Right? Again, this is just that one moment coming out of high school to give us that initial snapshot. Where are these kids at compared to other peers in the past? Right? This high school model that I've built for quarterbacks is almost 300 quarterbacks deep. So we've got a good landscape just going back from 2014, which only has a couple people, all the way up into the 2024 class. So we're talking about really, I'd say truly 10 classes, with a couple kids from 2014 thrown in there too. And so let's kind of break it down by class. And so for this first one, again, 2014 I only did 2 people because I was truly curious, like where do these guys land? You had Patrick Mahomes who had an 84, and you had Josh Allen who had a 42. Again, just because this is my version of the high school model, we're still going to see that not everybody's going to be considered a hit, or is even going to tell us, hey, this is somebody to target in year 1. Patrick Mahomes at an 84 is pretty good, and you'll see that a little bit later. Josh Allen at 42, yeah, I would have never told anybody, hey, pick up this kid going to Wyoming. Before he ever plays a college snap, he's totally going to be an all-star. It wouldn't happen. If we move over to the 2015 class, you got Kyler Murray, who was like QB3 in the composite. Over here has tied for the highest score ever right now in my high school model at a 9.7. Again, just one of the top tier dudes. And then right after that, again, notice I don't have a lot of 2015 people here, right? So I'm not going to sit there and say I've got all 20 But you had Joe Burrow, who was like QB 20 in the composite services. He's over here looking at my QB 2, right? And that's above a bunch of other people like Josh Rosen, Jarrett Stidham, bunch of these other dudes who are way above him, and he's crushing it. When you start sit there and you take all three of those factors I mentioned before in the process, you put it together. And again, he's coming out to a mobile quarterback at 92. Jarrett Stidham, again, being one of the top dudes, was down to 86. That's okay, but that's nothing like 97, 92 right there. I mean, it stands out difference wise when you go back and you start looking at some of this, right? I mean, heck, Rosen all the way over here at a 76. I mean, again, that was the composites top quarterback, well below everybody else here, right? Again, notice again, just because I made this model, I'm not going to have everybody perfectly. Lamar Jackson sitting down here at a 69. His passing game needed some work. Shocking, shocking. That happens to be the same statement that a lot of people have made about him. We go up to 2016. Every player you see listed right there is guys that I've got from 2016. It's funny because Justin Herbert's a 3-star. He's over here sitting at an 86. Jalen Hurts, right there behind him, is an 85. That was the top two guys in the class, right? That's beating guys like Shea Patterson, Jacob Eason, Ian Book, all these other dudes that people were putting way up there. Yeah, we like those two dudes that are in the blue. They've ended up being great for fantasy purposes for a couple years now. Like I say, a couple years, at least 6. It feels like. So I mean, that's it's great to see that this historical outlook is still naming some of these top dudes. If we sit there and we flip it over to the 2017 class, you got Tua Tagovailoa at the top. If I said that correctly, again, apologies if I don't. He's in there with a model score of 96 while being a mobile quarterback. That was phenomenal. We love anybody that scores that high. And then it's kind of a drop off. We got Miles Brennan was the next best one at 91. Jake Fromm, again, another drop to 85. Sam Ellinger as a Konami all the way down to 82. Davis Mills, pocket 82. I mean, just nothing super inspiring, right? You had Hendon Hooker was 76. Kellen Mond was a 74. Jake Haener, Bailey Zappi were in the 60s, and just, again, progressively getting lower and lower and lower. Now, if anyone's watching this, they're probably looking at it going, dang, is Mac Jones really that bad? I can't find any high school stats for Mac Jones at all. I've searched. I've done a lot of time trying to find it on him, and it's just not showing up anywhere. So it's for him just purely, again, based off the limited data I could find, plug in, and it represents that's currently what he's kind of sitting at was a 46. 2018 class, JT Daniels was a pocket quarterback at 92. 2018 also happened to be the Trevor Lawrence class as well. He's sitting there at a pocket quarterback recruit type with a 91 score. It's interesting seeing that those two were slightly different. You got Phil Jerkovic also came in as a Konami quarterback at 91. Remember, JT Daniels, Phil Jerkovic at least did carry some hype throughout college, but obviously we've seen that they didn't work it out at all. Justin Fields was right there, QB2 of the class, right behind Trevor Lawrence, came in a Konami type quarterback with a 91. Again, it's great seeing that at least two of those guys right there end up going pro, super high draft picks. The other two carried some value, but their careers kind of just kept falling apart throughout college. Would have been a good time flipping them once we started seeing those signs. It's just interesting because QB5 of this class isn't like a normal guy that we think about. It's another 3-star. Brock Purdy was a Konami type quarterback from high school with a 90 model score. Like the fact that Purdy came in at a Konami type is really impressive because again, we watch him play in the NFL, and that's not what we're thinking of, right? And that's okay, but it showed even back then that hey, he does have a little bit of ability with his legs if he needs to extend plays and just win the game on the ground. Now he didn't do that a ton at Iowa State, but it's nice knowing these quarterbacks in high school have a skill that hopefully can continue to translate. Not always. I talked about Tanner McKee, who actually same class right here, was a mobile quarterback with an 88 score. While PFF and others had him as a first round quarterback going into his last year. We knew kind of early into his career, okay, yeah, this dude's not a good runner, but even though the model shows that he has a decent score, it's at least been able to predict, hey, if they didn't hit in the NFL, they at least got some hype. Matt Corral was a pocket quarterback at 86, also has some hype, ended up being a third round pick. If you go past that, again, none of these dudes are like super inspiring. Jordan Travis, Zach Wilson ended up both being Konami's 76s. My bad. Zach Wilson was a 72. Cam Rising right now in college, still somehow Konami type quarterback sitting there at 70. Michael Penix, again, saying there was a pocket quarterback at 67. Will Levis plugged him in, pocket quarterback at 64. It's just, again, the odds of being relevant are going down. Doesn't mean it was a complete, yeah, no, this dude's out completely. 2019, you got Jane Daniels up here at the top. Again, I said anything that scores that high is phenomenal. Konami type quarterback, 95. We'd love to see it. Spencer Rattler, who was the number one quarterback from this class, pocket, 88. Big drop off right there. Bo Nix, mobile, 87, right? That ended up working out for him. He just made it to the NFL. Great drafts capital. I mean, it looks like the dude might be the starter going into the season the way he's playing the preseason. Graham Mertz was the next best one at 85 as a pocket. KJ Jefferson, 84. Max Duggan, 82. Sam Howell was an 82. I mean, again, notice Dylan Gabriel, kind of the same thing as Mac Jones, couldn't find the scores. So this is what we got right now. Yeah, no, that doesn't speak good for Grayson McCall within 41, but again, not everybody's going to be looking phenomenal in this, and that's good. You got 2020 class, you got TJU at 92, he tied with Bryce Young, 92, both of them showing as pocket quarterbacks. Well, that kind of is a giveaway. Hey, again, while they still have a chance at going to the pros, their ceiling just might be a little bit more limited, right? You might not be looking at QB1 overall type ceilings with them. We'll see what happens. Bryce Young, DJU still in Florida State this year. We'll see what happens. The rest of this list is kind of a little bit uninspiring, besides the fact that CJ Stroud was right here sitting at a 75. Yes, he was a pocket passer. Yes, the model was out on him. But the fact he went to Ohio State kind of spoke up a little bit. Hey, if this dude develops in the backgrounds, he might be something. Yeah, he's looked great. Anthony Richardson is Konami type quarterback at 73. Again, you just have to understand, hey, if these scores are dropping down like this, you better go watch the film yourself and you better decide, does he have enough traits that you're willing to invest in? Otherwise, you run the risk right here, right? Tyler Van Dyke was sitting there down here at 62. I mean, sometimes he's hit, sometimes he's missed. We'll see what he looks like this last year, but again, odds aren't looking great for him. 2021, right? So this is that class that some of them played their senior season during the COVID season. Some of them didn't. It was kind of a weird wishy-washy on it, which honestly threw off some stats because the 2021 class QB1 was Caleb Williams. You notice he's down here on this list at a mobile type with a 76 score. I didn't give a care. I didn't even have this back then. I was excited. There's a quarterback going to the QB Whisperer and Lincoln Riley. Like, let's roll with it. It worked out, but again, doesn't say there wasn't risk. Brock Vandegrift was at a pocket 95, top of the class. Very interested in seeing what he looks like now as Kentucky's starter. This might be a dude that's just getting massively slept on. We're going to find out. Jackson Dart was a mobile 91. Drake May was a pocket 90. Preston Stone, Konami 90, right? Two of those dudes right there are right now some of the top options, top 20 quarterbacks in college when it comes to the C2C community. Drake May just went third overall to my New England Patriots. I believe he's going to work out great as well. I mean, again, this top group for the most part has been pretty interesting. Now, Ty Thompson, good luck at Tulane, but yeah, that didn't work out when he went to Oregon. Shador Sanders, pocket 88. And the score, Like, we'll see what he is at Colorado. I know he's getting some first round buzz. Again, it's to be determined. Let's see what happens this year. Sam Heward, shout out, that's a throwback, was a statue. Notice the statue, just because your recruit type says statue, didn't mean you couldn't get a high score. He's sitting here in 86. But the fact he was a statue, yeah, honestly, if their statues, like, I'm just not touching it at year one. I'd rather buy in later if I believe in the quarterback themselves. Quinn Ewers sitting there out of pocket 85. All right. Well, yeah, he technically reclassified, moved up. It obviously shows even if he does make it to the pros, his ceiling is probably a little bit more limited, right? He's not going to ever probably be the QB1. I'm not going to say, yeah, this is guaranteed not going to happen, but again, there's a tougher path there. Morton, we'll see if he's healthy this year, was a mobile type quarterback at 84. Kyle McCord, statue, 81. Sorry for the McCord fans. Again, I thought he might end up being the next guy too for a little bit, but again, statues just are looking rough. You got Caden Salter down here, Konami 77. Nussmeier, statue 71. We'll see what happens this year for LSU. Milrow, this is where it's interesting because Milrow is a pocket 67 in the model. We can obviously watch Milrow in college. Yeah, hey, this dude's an athlete with the ball in his hands. But again, maybe that would have told us right now for year one, let's don't buy in to still super cheap going into year two. So in my C2C leagues, that's where I went ahead and balled in. I said, even if he's not the starter, he's got enough talent athletically that we've seen in flashes. It's worth the hype or worth the potential later on. JJ McCarthy, yeah, sorry. If you didn't invest in him year one, probably would have been tough getting him year two. And again, I just missed out. We'll see how it works. Hoping he recovers pretty quickly, and we'll see what he does for the Vikings. 2022. All right, now I'm starting to open up my list. I need to start figuring out some of these dudes who are in college or who are about to go into college now for the next couple classes. Like, are these dudes worth it, right? So Gunnar Stockton for the 2022 class ended up being the top dude. Again, remember, this is multiple seasons I take from their high school stats. And so that's 2020 season and the 2021 seasons were both a little bit. Are you okay? Are you in? Or are you out for COVID? Like certain players each week were benched for COVID. So again, the stats are a little wonky for some of them, but for overall, I think it's still worth keeping in there just to see what it looks like. So Gunnar Stockton center is economy 93. Well, from all reports I'm seeing from UGA, he's the backup this year. Carson Beck should be gone. He'll be the next man up. There's a very good chance, based off where he scored in the model, we might see something promising for him when he does get a chance to show himself as the starter. Right? Cade Klubnik right behind him was a pocket quarterback at 91. Well, that didn't really work out. Walker Howard, I believe LSU at the time, pocket quarterback at 90. Again, so far hasn't worked out. We'll see if Klubnik can turn around. Walker, we'll have to wait till if he can land a starting job. Devin Brown, pocket 86. Connor Weichman, mobile 86. Drew Alar, pocket 85. Notice again, that was a lot of those top names right there from the class. Only a few of them are even breaking into the 90s, and none of them are just like super high up. And so it just showed, hey, there's a little bit of risk. Maybe this class isn't quite as good as people are hyping. Just be aware, okay, it might be worth flipping these dudes if you trust somebody that's already in college. It's just to be determined, right? 2023 class. Again, looking at the top, you got Lincoln Conholz, Ohio State currently. We'll see. Expect him to transfer out, but Konami, which is really good to see, 93. Jackson Arnold, Konami, 91. Lenore Sellers, Konami, 90. Jabari Johnson, Konami, 88. All right. Notice those top dudes. They're all athletes with the ball in their hands, right? Jackson Arnold, Lenore Sellers. Two dudes were super hyped to see as starters this year for their respective colleges of Oklahoma and South Carolina. Lincoln Conholz, again, I think he's going to probably transfer this year after Ohio State season is over. Johnson, he's over there at Oregon State. And I know a lot of people think he's going to be the QB3 to start the season. Not saying it can't happen, but from all the Oregon insiders, what I see writing on the 24/7 Sports, or if you listen to their summer school podcast, the offense is set up in a way that requires a mobile quarterback like this. Johnson can offer that. So we might see him actually turn around and end up being a really good C2C stash kind of guy until we find out if it's going to work out. Malachi Nelson, who again just announced that he's not going to be the starter for Boise State, was a pocket 84. Hoover Johnson was a Konami 84. Right? We could have said, hey, Nelson, well, they got the Lincoln Riley whisperer, but again, if you're not seeing any flashes during the season, which to be fair, I get it, he's behind Caleb Williams. The thought process was he take over year two after. All right, well, maybe we need to backstash, Lenore Sellers here. Maybe we need to go grab Avery Johnson here. Aiden Childs was a Konami 83. Some of these top dudes that are getting buzz this year, all kind of falling into that top tier that we like seeing, the Konami tier. Dante Moore was a pocket 81. Yeah, 81s get real risky investing into as freshmen, and it showed. Now, Nico was a pocket 80, so I can't really say too much there either. You're just betting on the scheme. Dante Moore, UCLA, I mean, you didn't get a scheme upside right there. And as a pocket quarterback at 81, okay, you're taking that risk. Nico again. Model saying he's probably in a void, but you could still buy in if you trust going into Tennessee year two. You still like the scheme. That was for you to decide. Arch Manning, again, pocket 76. Notice these lower dudes who are super highly ranked in the composite services. Yeah, they're just not getting the same type of love in my model because their production was not out producing a bunch of their peers. Right. So again, you needed to go in and check, do I truly believe in this prospect? Do I truly believe in this system to develop them? As long as those two things made sense, then it was up to you. Did you want to take them at where the average draft position was for him and the ADP was? Now, after that, nothing like super inspiring on this list. Rashada, I know, got a lot of love. Being in pocket was 67. Yeah, if I had seen it then, I would have been like, yeah, I'm out. Again, just a bunch of these dudes, Emory Williams, Pierce Clarkson, just super low. And so again, that's 2023. That brings us over to 2024, who I've been trying to apply this theory super heavy in my C2C drafts this year. Anytime I've been trying to get a freshman quarterback, it's been one of three dudes. So at the top, this DJ Lagway, Konami type quarterback, 97 in the model. That's amazing to see because again, there's only four, double check in a second, but there's like only 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this whole model that got 95 plus. For him to be a Konami type quarterback, which is already a better hit rate, and to be that high in the system, I do not care who his current coach is or who his potential new coach might be if something happens after this year. Lagway has too much potential to not take that shot. Now, after him, you've got a lot of dudes who are like Julian Sands, got to be next, right? Or, it's got to be Nebraska, Dylan Raiola. Yeah, no, it's not. The second best quarterback in this model is Isaac Wilson, which happens to be Zach Wilson's little brother. He is a Konami type quarterback, 90 in the model, going to Utah. I've been real quiet about it this summer, kind of watching, hey, what does that look like for him? And sure enough, just a couple days ago, Utah's head coach named him the backup to Cam Rising. As a true freshman, he's already pushed his way all the way up and been smart with the ball, made a lot of good plays, kept moving the offense along, and it's just developed to end up earning the trust of the coach to be the backup to Cam Rising. I'm all in. Like I think there's real good potential. He was super, super late in drafts, so it's not like I was spending a lot of high draft capital to get him onto my teams. I think he can be fantastic. Now, Will Hammond was a Konami code quarterback. He came in third right now at an 86. I've been trying to add him where I could, but I don't think I've been very successful here. It's just kind of luck of the draw. He's again, he typically I've seen him go before Isaac Wilson. Samaje Jones, another Konami code quarterback, was an 85 in this group. Cedric Bailey, pocket 84. And then my third quarterback that I've liked targeting so far in C2C leagues this year is Isaiah Marshall, a Konami code type quarterback with an 84 in the model score. Again, 84 and above is really kind of been my cutoff, and you'll see that why in just a second. But like Marshall has been super cheap. Wilson's been super cheap. Lagway, I've been willing to trade up and earn several shares of him just because I believe what my system might be telling me. And so these three dudes have really hopefully set me up because Marshall also is getting a lot of good buzz to potentially. I hadn't seen it confirmed yet. Be fighting for that backup position in Kansas behind Jalen Daniels, who should be on his last year of eligibility. Now, again, I brought up Dylan Raiola. If you look down kind of lower at the bottom of the list, unfortunately, he is a statue type quarterback with a 63 score. This is not, again, not to say Raiola can't be successful. My wife went to Buford High School, and so we actually, during December last year, I got to go watch this kid play in person, and it was impressive what he could do. Like, he was able to buy some time, but you could tell, yeah, he's not making plays happen with his feet as far as gaining yards and keeping the drives going that way. He'll buy time in the pocket, he'll escape from the pocket when he can, and try and hope or find somebody open downfield, which is great to see for a quarterback, right? We like seeing their eyes are still working downfield, but I saw him take a couple sacks there. I even wrote about it, put it in the Discord that I'm working in. Like, hey, again, this is what I'm seeing. Like, he was very poised on the sideline. You could tell he had good like just command of what's going on, but there was just a limit to his ceiling. And so the fact that it says statue and he's so low in this high school model, for this year, I'm out on Raiola because, again, you're going to need Nebraska to have a solid offensive line in front of him. And we need to see what happens when pressure gets put in his face because we know any starting freshman quarterback, they're going to go ahead and put pressure in his face fast. How does he handle it, right? Now, people are going to sit there and, well, he's a starting year one quarterback. Like, there's no way his value goes down. Let me represent to you last year Dante Moore, pocket 81. Again, I think Nebraska this year obviously is better than UCLA last year, but the risk is still very similar. The value can still go down if he's not great. We've also seen this kid jump around a couple different schools. So if he has a bad year this year, who knows what happens, right? Transfer portal is a crazy place. Things could get wild pretty quickly. Julian Sayin is a pocket quarterback with a 76. It really goes back, do you truly believe in him in that Ohio State system? Which is, again, you got a new offensive coordinator. You know they're bringing in a 2025 kid. Do you think Sayin is better than this 2025 kid and able to win the job next year, right? We don't want a quarterback who's going to sit here for 3, 4 years and hopefully get the job. We would love to see these guys taken off by year 2. Aaron Nolan was a statue 75. Yeah, that alone right there being a statue, again, just kind of took him off my list. Damon Williams, I've seen a lot of people get hyped about him. He is a Konami code quarterback, so that's great seeing. He does have a 79. So when I see people say he is the Dollar General version of Kyler Murray, yeah, from a model score, he's not a 90 plus kid. He is a 79. So we'll see what happens. I know some people take him super early, and it's just, again, some of these dudes, I feel like they score super high or you can get super late in the drafts. They've just been better bets because we know how picky quarterbacks can be and how hard it is to get quarterbacks to hit, right? I mean, heck, I took DJU and Rattler multiple years ago in a Devy league thinking, yeah, I'm set, right? I don't have to worry about quarterbacks in a couple of years. These dudes are going to get to the pros. They're going to just, again, make my bench look so much better. My starting lineups look so much better. Yeah, that didn't work. And I missed out on a lot of good quality receivers and running backs and just other ways I could have helped my team by sitting there pushing quarterback too heavy, right? So I'm okay taking some shots like DJ Lagway, but I'm also okay. Hey, let's play the long game on quarterbacks. Let's te- let's take them super late and target some other positions otherwise. Until then, another dude on this page, real quick, CJ Carr, Notre Dame quarterback, sitting there in the pocket, 72. Walker White was a mobile 70. Just a couple other dudes like that who are getting some real buzz that's going pretty early, top six, top three for some of these, top three rounds for some of these kids. And it's just might not be worth it. Right. And so, again, it's just things to consider here. Now, again, I've talked through every class. 2014 only with the two, 2015 had some, 2016 had some. And you see with these last couple classes, I've really started pushing more and more kids in just to see what would happen. Well, let's break it down by, where they were in the recruiting star service. So my 5 stars, Lagway, Murray, Tua, and Brock. That's my 4 guys right here who had 95 plus. You're going to see another one in a second. So again, that should be about 5 dudes who had a 95 plus score. But out of the 5 stars, the 3 who went above 95 have been phenomenal. We'll see what Vandegrift does. TJU down here to 92, Bryce Young with a 92. Again, Jackson Arnold, we'll see what he is. Cade Klubnik, we'll see if he turns it around. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. That's kind of your group along with JT Daniels of the 90 plus. That's several hits in there. We like seeing that. If you got out of that, if we look at the 80s, again, we're talking about several dudes: Rattler, Nix, Weigman, Heward, Alar, Ewers, Nelson, Davis Mills, Dante Moore, Kyle McCord, Shea Patterson, and Nico for Tennessee. Again, right now the only one we got is Bo Nix. Rattler technically got drafted super late, but he's not the starter right now in the NFL. And all these other dudes are people are sitting there going, is Weigman going to be any good? Is Drew Lar going to be any good? Is Quinn Ewers going to be worth it? Is Malachi Nelson, is his stock, his value, is it done for? Dante Moore, is he going to recover from this? People already wrote off Kyle McCord. People love Nico, but again, that 80 range is kind of risky. Your 70s, again, Caleb Williams should have been higher, but shout out COVID and stats getting messed up. He was a hit in the 70s. Julian Sands right there in the 70s. We'll see what he does. Arch Manning right there. Again, all 3 of those guys kind of that same score. Similar, but only difference is Caleb Williams was mobile while the other 2 are pocket passers. We'll see what those 2 do. Josh Rosen, that didn't really work out, but technically he got the draft capital. Again, Ty Simpson, not going to be starting this year, but he has earned some buzz. We'll see what happens with him. You got Dylan Rowland near the bottom, and J.J. McCarthy was my lowest, right? Again, J.J. McCarthy, that's a good sign of, hey, he was a statue in high school. He got behind a great offensive line and really showed, yeah, I can be an athlete in college. Hopefully, maybe Raul has that effect. We'll see, but it's risky. The 4 stars, this is my other kid who had above 95, and I say kid, like he's not, again, older than me or similar age to me. You got Jaden Daniels, Konami, 95. Again, 3 of the people who were in 95 plus went pro. Got great draft capital. Jaden Daniels, Kyle Murray, Tua. We're talking about DJ Lagway, Brock Vandegrift. We're going to see what they do. But, again, that's a good group to be in. Lincoln Holes, again, near the top. Gunnar Stockton near the top. Joe Burrow's pretty up there. Jackson Dart. Notice kind of that range where Isaac Wilson's falling, right? Right beside Lenore Sellers, who everybody started getting hyped on kind of late last year, and it's carried over to this year where he's a fan favorite. Wilson could end up following a similar path to that. Drake May, again, right there in kind of a similar tier. Preston Stone. Dudes who maybe not start fully year 1, but by year 2, they take off. Good to see that. The 80s haven't been quite as promising with Jalen Hurts. Notice, again, 85 for the Konami. Really, truly the hit of this group. But there's a lot of dudes with upside in recent years who kind of fall into this range. We'll watch and see how they develop. 3 stars. Again, this is really what I like because, again, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. Those were three of my four top three-star scores. Purdy had a 90 with Konami. Herbert was a mobile with an 86. Patrick Mahomes was mobile with an 84. This is why I like grabbing Isaiah Marshall because he is a Konami 84 three-star quarterback. Now, right behind them is Byron Brown, the South Florida quarterback with the Konami 81 score. And I mean, again, that is a fantastic looking top five. I really think Marshall is going to be someone who's super slept on this year. And by next year, a lot of people are going to be going, how did we miss this kid? How did the services have him only as a three-star? It's great questions. I don't know, but he's in some really interesting company. It's well worth a shot to find out what we got, right? Castellanos, 80, Sam Hartman, 78, Jordan Travis, 76, right? Just some of these other dudes, along with Connor Harrell, another dude I've been watching, the North Carolina kid. Like all these people are some of the top guys out of this group that we like seeing. So it's just so interesting when we think about it and look at it this way. But let's put it as an overall picture, right? So if I sit there, I combine the recruit types, I combine all the class types, like it just shows being a high scorer in this system typically pays off because they at least have some hype in college, and a decent chunk of them, if they're highly rated enough, have ended up being pretty successful by making it to the pros and having some value there. Again, I already mentioned it before, but 90 and above is a pretty fantastic spot to be. We see a lot of dudes hit up there with Murray, Tua, Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Drake May, and Brock Purdy. Again, it's a pretty good group, and you can see my sample size if you're watching the video. I mean, again, a couple years, we might be talking about some of these other dudes also being added to that list, right? We still got Sellers, still got Arnold. We'll see what Vandegrift is. We'll see what Stockton is. Like these dudes, their future hasn't been set yet, but they're in some pretty good company to be watching. Same thing now with Isaac Wilson and DJ Lagway. If we're talking about the 80s, again, we see some dudes hit. You got Bo Nix as an upper 80. We got Shador Sanders at an 88 as well. We'll see what happens with him. You're talking about Weigman. We got Stidham, who's been a journeyman quarterback for a little bit. You got Matt Corral, who got drafted again. You got Justin Herbert, who made it with an 86. Quinn Ewers with an 85. Drew Lar with an 85. Guys, I'm kind of liking Jalen Hurts with an 85. But notice again, I keep reading off some of these names. I'm working my way down the scores. After I hit Mahomes with an 84, which also is the cutoff for Isaiah Marshall and Cedric Bailey, Cedric Bailey, North Carolina State or NC State's quarterback right now, if anybody's wondering who that is. Like after those dudes, it gets risky. You got Howell down here in 82. I'll let you be your own judge of what you think of Howell in the NFL. Sam Darnold with an 82. Let's see what he is for the Vikings this year. And again, it gets a little questionable after that part, right? And it's interesting. Now, if you keep that in mind, hey, like, should I take all these top quarterbacks, right, and just load up on make my team set for years to come? I mean, obviously, again, we see quarterbacks a very tough position to crack and become one of the 32 dudes in the NFL. Maybe don't waste all your draft picks, right? Learn from me, learn from others who've spent way too many early picks on quarterbacks to start with, and start getting more strategic about when do you take those shots, right? In a Devy draft, you don't got to use your first round pick on a quarterback every single time. Maybe your third round pick, maybe if you got a fourth round or something like that, take one of these highly rated dudes in the model that's not having to go that early. Like I got Caleb Williams in the third back when he was a freshman, or before he even played a college snap as a freshman, incoming freshman. I got him. Drake May, you could have grabbed him before he started. I mean, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, like Jalen Hurts, like these dudes, Mahomes even, these dudes weren't going to cost you a top overall pick. Now, yeah, you wanted Murray, you wanted Jaden Daniels, you wanted Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, those are going to require some early picks, but the model at least supported taking a shot on it, right? You might end up with a DJU, you might end up with a Joe Burrow. I mean, it really just kind of depends on what happened here. And so all that's to say is like, yeah, quarterback's still a tough position to predict, but this might be a good starting point when you're trying to figure out which high school quarterbacks are worth the early investments, or at least, hey, these are the best type of stash dudes later on if their ADP is a little bit cheaper. Because again, everything is based off the community we play in. So if the community is always pushing up all these dudes, all right, well, it'd be nice to see that the model kind of supports that. If not, okay, maybe I can pivot, go with somebody that's a little bit lower in value, but also cheaper in ADP, yet the high school model is saying, I don't know, there's a good chance here, right? And again, I think that'll kind of finish it up. So I appreciate it. Again, that was my high school quarterback model, just helping kind of predict those approaching the pros as future successful stars. We've already done receivers, we've done running backs, done tight ends. So honestly, we'll have some fun. I know the college season's almost upon us. So maybe I'll throw something in a little different now that I'm done with all this. But again, until then, I appreciate all the support, and I'm always open to questions in the comments, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on Twitter. Feel free to always hit me up. Until next time, again, make sure you're checking out those stats, you're watching those films, and hopefully together we can help find those future NFL legends. Have a good one.